Hey everybody, happy Monday. Welcome back to another episode of Mastermind Academy. How's everyone doing tonight? Time's 8 o'clock. Cool, right on time. So that's always what I'm worried about. I try to get a bunch of stuff together real fast right before the stream. And I always want to make sure I start right at 8 because I do think your timing is important. But happy Monday. I'm doing pretty good today. I actually just got back from a little bit of a rest period, but I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Thanks for asking. It feels like forever since we didn't stream on Wednesday. Feels like it's been so long. I guess I've gotten used to doing it twice a week now. I guess so. It feels really weird not having done it since last Monday. Oh yeah, the Science Center. I went last year. I couldn't go tonight specifically because I wanted to stream. I actually should have threw some cards and stuff together. So maybe you guys could have gave them out at back to school night. So for people who don't know, people here in Baltimore City, they do some cool things for back to school night. They do like a citywide all together back to school night. I know usually back to school night, kids and parents go to their own respective schools, but they kind of do it all together here. I think they've been doing it for the past few years, which is pretty cool. They got a lot of tables and things set up to kind of show kids, different companies, different resources and things that are available to them. It's a pretty dope concept. And yeah, I went and did it last year. I helped host a table there for the company that I work for. But it's a pretty cool concept. I definitely want to see more school systems doing stuff like that. Oh yeah, no, I did not stream on Wednesday. We were supposed to do a checkpoint lab. I have not posted that checkpoint lab yet. I do have it. I'm putting it in Markdown and I'm going to throw it in a README on GitHub, similar to how the things from Exorcism are done with some instructions that way. I actually found some mistakes in it, some mistakes in the process of it. I was actually running through it, making sure it made sense. So I need to update those things. So it hasn't gone out yet. So you didn't miss anything. But I definitely had to change that. But I also had some stuff going on Wednesday and wasn't able to stream on Wednesday. So you didn't miss out on anything there. Few more minutes as usual. I'm gonna let people kind of get in, get comfortable. This is the part that I'm most excited about. I love cloud computing. I love what the cloud gives us all access to. So tonight's gonna be pretty fun. It's gonna be pretty information dense. So I'm gonna go through some slides, but we're gonna be hands-on almost the whole time, running through the AWS console, setting things up. But yeah, this whole 2 weeks is going to be information dense, but this is the part I like the most. And again, I'll tell you which parts to focus on, the concepts that you need to understand, but I'll also tell you the stuff that's kind of just extra that I'm giving you because I'm going to throw it kind of all at you. But again, the high level concepts are what we want to focus on, so don't sweat it. Should have got a fog machine. Yes, that would have been amazing, and I will keep that in mind for number 2. Again, this is the first run at all of this. This is kind of seeing how I can improve on these bootcamp style learnings, but fog machine sounds great. I will absolutely iterate on that. I'm working on a few more bootcamps and I'm trying to figure out an ordering. I'll probably run 2 at a time. But I do want to make them entire production. So the more options you have out, like the fog machine, that is actually, I'm copying that down right now. That is for sure something I'm going to take. And I'll give you props for it when I do get to use it. So if anyone has any more good ideas like that, I'd love to hear them. Let's see. Let me just make sure. Fog machine. Great idea. I'm putting 3 stars by that. All right, cool. 8:04. 1 more minute. And then we'll start running through everything. Make sure I have. All right. Yeah, I forgot it's football season now. I didn't forget it's football season, but I'm not a Ravens fan. I'm not a Ravens fan. I'm from the DC area. I'm from Prince George's County, and so I'm a Redskins fan. Unfortunately, that makes me one of the bravest fans in the world. Also, one of the saddest fans in the world. They never fail to let you down during football season. But I'm also, this year, I'm a little more focused on college football. My brother's actually a college football coach. So this is the first year as a college football coach. So I'm kind of keeping up with college football this year, attending a lot of games. So that is going to be my focus this year instead of the NFL, since my team always lets me down. I do cheer for the Ravens, as long as they're not playing the Redskins. I do cheer for them, but that's not my team. All right, cool. Let's get started. Yeah, how about those Terps? I love the Terps. Had a tough loss this weekend, but keep watching. I think they're going to do something special this year. That's definitely the team to watch. So, all the information on the things in Google Classroom. Oh yeah, so I did send that out. I can resend it. Versus if you're in the Slack, can you shoot me a message just with your username, and I'll get you the links to the Google Classroom stuff. I don't want to spam you. I don't want to spam people, but I can also just resend the Google Classroom email because it seems like a couple of people missed it. If you're subscribed, I do have the Google Classroom set up. What's it called? Twitch only allows me to send out a massive blast all at once to everyone. So I'll send out one more tonight, but if not, shoot me a message inside of Slack and I will send you just with your username in Twitch, and I will send you off the link to Google Classroom so that you can get in there. The Google Classroom does have all the slides for this, as well as some additional resources and a few little projects in there as well. So yeah, so just shoot those off to me either in Slack or keep an eye out. I'll shoot one more blast out. Don't get mad at me, if I'm filling up your inbox with spam. I'll try to only send out one more through Twitch so that you can get that information. I forgot to announce. I don't think I ever announced that was up and running. Again, if you didn't see that email or you didn't get it, just reach out to me. But cool, let's go ahead and get started. So tonight, intro to the cloud, someone else's computer. You've probably seen this sticker before. If you haven't, it's a common joke, it's a common sticker, that the cloud is just someone else's computer. And shortly you'll realize why that is. So what the heck is the cloud? So I took a lot of definitions, and I kind of boiled it down to what I thought was most pertinent to learn as we're diving into this. There's a lot of different ways people have described it. There's a lot of people who've described it who actually have no idea what it is. But the cloud, it's a distributed network. It's distributed networked computer resources. So distributed means that these computer resources are not together. They may be they're separated. They're around the world. They're around the country, but they're not all together. You may take one computer resource and a different computer resource, that's far away from it, and use those together to kind of achieve one goal. And they're networked. So all these things are networked together, and they're computing resources. And they're also on demand. You have on-demand access to them without direct active management by the user. And so I think these are the two most important pieces of cloud computing. And so on-demand access means that at any given time, you can go in and you can say, hey, I would like to use these computing resources for my own, services, for the things that I want to achieve. And you will get those resources, and you just have to pay for what you use without having to do anything special, any kind of manual setup for the most part for a lot of these things. So that's essentially what the cloud is. It's actually not all that special. It's not all that crazy, but you'll see kind of what that on-demand thing means after this. But computing resources, I've actually talked to people about the cloud before, and they weren't sure what I meant by computing resources. So we'll run through what computing resources are. So we'll start with the first one. This is the CPU. If you're not sure what a CPU is, this is the central processing unit. That's what CPU stands for. And it's called a processor. Most people refer to it as a processor. You have one in your computer, you have one in your phone or your tablet, whatever you're watching on. And this is the brain of that device. What it does is it takes an information and it calculates, different logic, and it processes data, to make so that you can make decisions with that data. It basically, takes an information, performs calculations on it very quickly, extremely quickly, especially nowadays, at a crazy fast level, and returns that information to you so that you can make some determinations on it. But again, this is the brain of your computer. This is what keeps your computer running pretty fast. So CPU, if you want to do a lot of things, this is one computing resources, and this is something that you might pay for, and it might be called compute. That is generally the bucket in which it falls in. And so, yeah, that is one computing resource that you may have to pay for, that you may want to pay for. The next one is RAM. And actually, I think I only included 4 computing resources in here that I think you should know about. So we've got compute, we've got RAM. So RAM is random access memory. This is a form of computer memory that can be read and changed in any order, typically stored working data in machine code. So RAM, this is data that is it's working data. So it's data that's being stored on things that you're working on, but it's temporary data. It's ephemeral. It's volatile. So that means that if the computer were to lose power, you to shut it off, you would lose that memory. It's not there for a long period of time. So RAM, is something that's in your phones, that's in your personal computers that you have now. But this is a resource that you can pay for when you're using cloud computing. You can make determinations on how much RAM you need, or you can rent RAM. That's basically what that on-demand access is. It's kind of renting computing resources. So you can do CPU, which is the brain. RAM, I'm not really sure what I would compare RAM to, but again, this is temporary, very fast memory that is mostly for it's working memory. So it's for your workloads. More RAM you have, usually the more tasks and things you can do all at once. Will there be another stream at some point for the lab? Yes, there will be a stream. There will be a stream this week for to make up for the lab that was missed. I'll let you know when it's going to be, but I wouldn't make a big deal if you can't get to it. That one I will immediately upload to Google. So if you prefer to watch on Google, I'll upload that immediately, so that people can kind of run through that. But I do encourage that you do the lab once I post the lab. It is in the Google Classroom, but I do encourage that you do the lab first, on your own. Try to do the lab on your own before running through the video. If you have no idea what you're doing, go ahead and watch the lab. Hopefully that'll add some insight. The lab is not the de facto way to do anything. Any of the stuff, there's multiple ways you can kind of run through what's in the lab, but you can use that as a resource, so it will be in there. RAM was described to me as your backpack, like going to school. Yeah, it's good. That's your working memory. So the stuff you need for the day, the bigger backpack you have, the more you can kind of hold in there, and that you can get to it really quickly if you need to. And that's what your RAM would be. Okay, now for your permanent storage. So you need some place to store files permanently, and that's what your hard drive is. This is where your operating system lies. So your Windows, your Macintosh, that has to be installed somewhere. Those files have to be saved somewhere, and that's your hard drive. So unlike RAM, this hard drive stores data even after the machine is turned off, so it's not volatile. A hard drive is in the storage unit of the machine, and it's where you save your documents, your applications, using magnetism. We'll leave it that way. This is a picture of a traditional hard drive. If you've ever been purchasing a computer and you see you can get an HDD, which is a hard disk drive or a hard drive disk, and now which is the preferred option, makes your computer much faster, is a solid state drive, so an SSD. But these are both hard drives. These are both things that do permanent storage. And so that's another computing resource that you can use that you can rent. So hard drive storage, disk space basically is what hard drives are. And then the last one in here, I just threw this in there because this is becoming more and more prevalent in today's cloud computing workloads. But video cards, all computers do not have this. Well, they have some type of video processing unit, but a video card, it provides the image that's seen on the monitor. The video card is attached to the monitor. This is old definition using a VGA cable, but this is the thing that does your graphics processing, and it processes what you see on the computer. If you're a gamer, or if you're into video editing or things like that, a better video card will allow you to process more data and things will look better. Video cards can be used to process a lot of different things nowadays. They're not just for graphics. They can do a lot of they're good at doing specific types of computational workloads. So nowadays, video cards are important for a lot of different things, and this is something that you can rent as well through cloud computing. I don't know if everyone's seen the craze of crypto mining and stuff, and everyone's running out and buying these video cards so that they could mine Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, and that's because, again, these video cards are good at processing a specific type of workload. All right, so that's the basics for the resources. So again, let's run back over those real quick. The computing resources. This is not all the computing resources. These are what I would say are the main computing resources. So CPU, so the processor, the brain, the RAM, which would be like the backpack. But this is that quick access memory, working memory that is volatile and it goes away. It's not for permanent storage. Hard drive space. If RAM is the backpack, hard drives is like your room at home where you can store a lot more stuff. That's where you kind of have things there permanently. When you leave the house every day, you throw stuff from your room into your backpack, the stuff you need for the day. That's the RAM. But at home, everything you can store in your room in your house is probably your hard drive, things that need to stick around for a while. And then we have video card here for processing the things that you can see. Pretty simple there. But I thought it was good to put some context into what computing resources were, because I've had a lot of people who weren't 100% sure what I meant by that. But now let's talk about some cloud computing vendors, because there are a lot of them. So we've got on the left here, this is actually, where's my mouse? This is Azure. Actually, hold on one second. Let me get my mouse to be inside of here. Cool. So on the left here, this is Microsoft Azure. So Microsoft is a cloud computing vendor. They have their own cloud computing platform called Azure. This is their new logo, I believe. And actually, let's hit their website. Azure is pretty cool. It's a great platform. It's pretty cool. I would definitely check it out if you have time, if you're looking for something. But, again, it's broken up in a way that you can rent these different services from them. But it's a good thing to learn. So you can check that out if you want. The other two that we have here are Google Cloud Platform. So Google, has their own cloud platform as well. And people refer to it as GCP for a Google Cloud Platform. And you click on it and it takes you here, and they have a bunch of services as well that you can use. You can kind of check that out. I would wait till if this is your first time into cloud computing, wait till we're done with tonight. And it'll make more sense when you log into those panels, kind of what's going on and how these things are broken up and what you're actually looking at once you get inside of there. And then the last one, the one that we're going to be using for this is AWS, Amazon Web Services. I'm not really sure how this apostrophe got there, but cool. That's not a part of their logo. That's not a part of AWS, but cool. AWS, the same Amazon that has a company called AWS, Amazon Web Services, and they are also a cloud computing provider. Cool. Amazon Web Services. So these are the three biggest vendors. There are a lot more vendors. There's Oracle, everyone's in the game now. So Oracle, if you heard of the company Oracle, they have a cloud service. There's companies like DigitalOcean. These are cloud providers, not to the same scale that these companies are, but absolutely cloud providers. There are a ton out there. There are so many. Alibaba, the giant Amazon-like company overseas. I think they're bigger than them. I don't know if they're bigger than Amazon, but Alibaba has their own cloud. I don't know anyone in the US who uses Alibaba Cloud though, but they have one. Everyone has one because the industry is booming and there's a lot of money in it and everyone wants in. But there are a bunch, but we'll focus on, again, these main kind of 3 or 4, just to keep it from getting too confusing. But all right, so those are some of the vendors, and there are a lot of them. But at all these vendors, I say there's tons of vendors. Why are we using AWS? So this is the first reason, and I think is interesting. And this is not even current, but this is Cloud Infrastructure Services market share. So you can see here that Amazon has a pretty large lead on the market. I think Amazon was first to have a mature cloud service for the general public, not just for enterprises, and that because of the ease in which you could build things on it, it kind of took off. And Microsoft, saw what was happening, and they invested a ton of money, and they were close behind. Google actually only recently, they've been in third deep in the third for a long time, and they just recently started investing tons of money into their cloud computing. They were kind of focused on machine learning and big data, so they do have great products for that, but they're just kind of fleshing out their services to kind of catch up. And then you can see there are all of these other companies. And you can see here how Microsoft and Amazon are bigger, or just as big or bigger than the next 10 providers after these first big four. At least this was back in the beginning of 2018, or quarter four at the end of 2018. But yeah, and you can still see here, even the next 10 providers, and there's rest of market. So they still have a decent market share. That shows you how many providers there are. So yeah, we're using Amazon, one, because it is the largest, has the biggest market share. And two, I didn't put a slide on here, two, because they've kind of been popular the longest, they have the largest portfolio of services. And you'll understand what services are as we get in, but they have a service for everything. They have something that you can pay money for to do easily, for your infrastructure, for your project, for your service. They have it. They have it available, and that makes it cool. I mean, it's a little overwhelming. As soon as we log in, you'll see how overwhelming it is. But I think they have kind of everything you need in there. And two is jobs. So this is cloud engineer salary. So this does apply to all of those clouds. Cloud computing is very profitable. Understanding how cloud computing works and how to solve a company's problems using the cloud is very valuable. This is the average salary in the United States. When I searched for it, according to this website, you'll get different values as you go around, but it is pretty high. But a lot of those jobs, most of those jobs, most likely, that you'll come across want you to know AWS. Definitely more and more for, I'm seeing a lot more for Google Cloud Platform and Azure, but almost 90% of the ones you're going to come across are going to want you to know AWS. So I wanted to give you guys a cloud that would be immediately feasible for you to use to do well at a job. But again, you can see the salary here. You can learn out of all the things that we've done so far. These are the concepts. If you're looking for a way in, I think these are the concepts that are most applicable and easiest to help get you a job. I think if you can get really good at a cloud, a cloud provider, and to really understand how the cloud works, you have the best chance to go in and get a job, even without knowing all the other stuff that we've talked about. Also, understanding the cloud will help you implement a lot of the things that we've talked about and that we're going to talk about. And a lot of the stuff after this actually builds upon your knowledge of the cloud. So that's another reason why we're using AWS. But that is all the slides for tonight. Now we're going to hop straight in to Amazon. We're going to figure out how to use it from both the command line and through the console, through your web browser. We're going to hop in. We're going to spin up some servers and services. We're going to talk about tonight. We're going to specifically focus on EC2. Which is the Elastic Compute Cloud. So you can see there's two things that start with a C there. So Elastic Compute Cloud. So that's why it's called EC2. And you'll start to see that Amazon's naming conventions for their services are really weird. This is where I feel that Microsoft and Google have Amazon beat in their naming. But it's something you get used to. It is confusing at first, but you'll get used to it. So before we kind of hop straight in and get started, let me know if you have any questions. I'll run through and answer any questions that were asked. But let me know if you have any questions specifically about the cloud, specifically about any questions about what you would be doing as on the job, using the cloud, anything like that. I'd love to answer that before we kind of get hands on with what we're going to be doing. Whoever's getting paid $41K a year as a cloud engineer, yeah, I agree. But you do get paid different money for different places around the world, or different places around the country, because it's from the United States. Also, some of these are skewed also by startups. There are places where, yeah, I'm the cloud engineer for the company, but I'm also a key contributor, a key starter in this company, and I have 10% of the company right now. I own this much, so I work for a low amount of money because we don't really have much right now. So sometimes it's skewed by that. There's also people who may have the title who aren't really doing anything with the cloud. Their company might have an EC2 instance and they manage that one server. But yeah, I mean, these are usually skewed. I would feel bad for someone who was genuinely doing cloud work, but was only making $41,000 a year. But again, I really mean this. It is very, very lucrative if you know the cloud. I know people who have gotten jobs just off of going to get a cloud certification, and they've been not in tech at all. They've gotten a cloud certification, really got a handle on how to talk about the things that they learned throughout their certification, which is not hard to do, and we're able to get jobs purely out of that, again, because this is valuable to companies. What are my thoughts on AWS certifications? I'm not a huge fan of certifications, but I'm a giant fan of AWS certifications, at least right now. I think they're very valuable. I think if you can grab an associate level certification, I think it makes you very valuable. One, because companies get money and opportunities, or they get perks. Companies can become Amazon partners, and this allows them to be, put on lists for Amazon to kind of put you out there as a consultant and drive business to your company. It also gets you some perks with credits and things. But the more people you have at a company who are certified, helps you raise that partner level. So that's valuable to companies. But I think right now companies are holding that certification valuable, whereas I've seen other certifications not be used much at all, or not be cared about much at all. Let me see, AWS certifications. I do have some AWS certifications. The first time I put one on my LinkedIn, I was already getting messages about jobs and things. As soon as I put one on there, I got ridiculous amounts of inquiries for me to apply for jobs, and people interested in me, going through their hiring process. Just for having that certification, it allows you to be discoverable on platforms like LinkedIn as well. And I do think that the AWS has done a good job of evolving their certification to actually make it useful for your job. Like, it's not just memorizing a bunch of stuff. You do have to memorize a lot of stuff, but I think the questions and the way that they present the questions, I think does a good job of trying to make sure that you understand how to really use these products. Okay, so there's a website so New Relic will tell you which one might be right for you. There are 3, or at least last time I checked, there's now an entry-level certification, the AWS Certified Cloud Practitioner. I'm going to be 100% honest with you. I would skip this one. I think you could study for it. If you want to be hands-on, if you want to be an engineer, I would skip this one. If you are more on the business side of things, and you just want to have a good grasp of the cloud, because that would help you, manage your project better or something like that, I think this is a good one for you. But other than that, I would skip this one, and I would move on to one of the 3 associate. So associate levels are kind of the first, I guess, real level of certifications. There's a solutions architect, there's a developer, and there's a what's the last one? A SysOps administrator. SysOps, from what I've heard, for associate level is the hardest. The solutions architect associate is the easiest. The developer's the easiest. The solutions architect is the one in the middle, and the SysOps is the hardest for associate level. But the solutions architect professional, so professional is the next level up. It's kind of the top tier. The solutions architect professional is by far the hardest from at least the way that people have presented it. I actually haven't taken it yet. I'm studying for it. I'm going to take it in November, actually. But people say that this is the hardest, and that the DevOps one is hard, but not quite as hard as the solutions architect. And they've added some more. They've added some specialty ones like big data, but I would grab one. If you have the time, if you have the resources to go out and do some training on this, there are some great websites like A Cloud Guru, and Linux Academy, where you can get trained up on this stuff pretty easily. I would definitely spend the money and grab a cert for this. Any starting points for AWS? Again, A Cloud Guru. I use A Cloud Guru, and I recommend this site to anybody. Whoops. And I'll paste it in the chat. Their whole business model is around basically keeping up to date with what's going on in the cloud industry. They constantly have updates, but they go and take the tests and the certifications to make sure they know what's going on. And, I found that the information they provide is amazing. I think it's only $30 a month. It is a great resource. Or you can just grab one off Udemy. Their courses are actually on Udemy as well. So you can grab, when Udemy is having a sale, you can grab that off of there. Yep. The only thing about I think for all of the tests, except for the professional solutions architect. I would go for the professional solutions architect. I would go through a cloud guru, just because of the extra stuff that you get, and there's a lot of extra stuff that you need to know for that exam. But for all the other ones, I would go through Udemy or Udemy. Cool. Did I miss anything? Oh, so for the YouTube videos, I started uploading the YouTube videos. Today, actually. So you should start to see them as they're processing, get up there. It was such a hassle because I had to clip the beginning of every video, and exporting them after I clip that takes almost an hour for a 2-hour video. So I think we've done 12 of these so far, or this is the 13th one, and that takes a while. So that's 13 hours of exporting. And it takes, if I'm at home, it takes hours to upload a single video because Comcast has terrible upload speed. So I took them to work today and I uploaded the first half. So you should see those start populating on YouTube. If you're following me on YouTube, those should be up, and the other ones should be up by tomorrow. They should be done processing by tomorrow, uploading and processing by tomorrow. They're actually there uploading right now. I kind of left them there to be uploaded. So you should see those soon as well if you want to start with that. As well. So the Linux Academy is ridiculously amazing. Yeah, Linux Academy is pretty great because you get a lot of other things besides cloud computing. But Linux Academy has gotten a little bit expensive in comparison to some of the other services. But again, they give you a lot for that money. All right, cool. So let's hop straight into it. Let me close. Close tabs to the right? All right. So what we're gonna need to do is first go to the AWS console. So I think it's console.aws.com or something. Okay, it's aws.amazon.com/console. And I'll paste this in, and you can head here if you'd like. And then you can sign up for an account. I should have removed my account so that I could sign up for an account. But you would basically just click create new account here, and it would run you through a basic setup process the same way that you would set up, a Facebook or something else. The difference is I think you are required to put in a credit card here, even though all the services that we're going to use, there's a free tier for them. There's a way you can use them for free, and it won't charge you anything, but you do have to supply a credit card. You do have to supply for a credit card, supply a credit card to be able to get to that information. But I'm going to go ahead and sign into my console. I'll give everyone some time to kind of go through if you do want to follow along. Again, if you don't feel comfortable putting in a credit card, I think there are some options, that someone sent me an interesting article where I think there's some things you can do to not have to do that. But, it seemed like it was a little time consuming. So I think if I can dig that up, I'll send that out. But, you do need to put in a credit card from what I remember. I'm going to go ahead and log in again usually with username and password. And actually I need to take 1 second and run downstairs and get my phone because I have two-factor authentication and my phone's actually downstairs on the charger. So two-factor authentication, for anyone who doesn't know, is where you use two methods of authentication to be able to log in. And this is for security practices. So I put in on the last page, I put in my password, my password here. And then I sign in, and usually that will get you, logged into your website. And then after you get that installed, you can put in an authentication code. Sometimes it's a token. I know I use something called a YubiKey sometimes for work, that you can use to authenticate, but it's two factors, password being one and this authentication code being two. This authentication code changes. I use Google Authenticator. There's other apps for it. But I'll show you how to set that up once we get logged in. But luckily my wife brought my phone up, so I didn't have to run downstairs. So I'm going to go ahead and put in my authentication code. And so this doesn't mean anything. You can't steal this because you don't have my phone. You may be able to do it if you're really smart and you see me put in 2 to 3. Whoops, I put in the wrong one. So, yep, that was my one for work. If you saw me put in 2 to 3 and you're really smart, you may be able to take some time to figure out how it's kind of calculating those numbers, but it would take you forever. But cool. So I'm logged in. I've used those two-factor authentication to get logged in. So this is what the console looks like. And so it's gotten better. But the more and more you use AWS, everyone kind of agrees that it's a terrible user experience. There's too much. They have so many services. There's the consistency amongst services is off. They need to kind of get on the same page in their consistency amongst them and the experience amongst them. But this is what it looks like when you first log in. You've got a lot of things available to you, but this is what it looks like when you first log in. So again, I'll give people some time to kind of get their account set up if you're following along before we kind of hop into the actual EC2 instance. We're going to start off with EC2 tonight, and we're going to hop into IAM after that. It's jumped from 9 to 13. So Twitch actually pulls down videos after 14 days. So that they're kind of those are gone off of Twitch, but those are being uploaded to YouTube as we speak. Like they might be processing now. They might be done before we even finish this. So all of those videos will be available on YouTube very shortly, as soon as they're done processing and uploading. Have I been able to use YubiKey on Linux? Yes. My for work, I use a Dell XPS 15 that has Pop! OS on it only, and I use YubiKey. I use my YubiKey on there. I do have some trouble sometimes, like if you're not like, sometimes if my mouse is like out of the window or something, I press it, it'll like open up a new window and try to plug in my YubiKey code like into the browser, but it works fine. I have the YubiKey Nano, so like it takes up a USB port permanently, but I do use the YubiKey on Linux. Until I use it for anything that I can have two-factor auth on, I do use it. Because it's really easy. There are great tutorials on the AWS site. Yes, there are great tutorials on the AWS site. I would argue that there are only great tutorials after you're comfortable going through documentation and tutorials. So like, I don't know, for me, I found I used to find that stuff a little cumbersome because they were written in a way, they're written in their setup in a way that that didn't work for me kind of out of the box, and kind of what I've seen from other people kind of hopping in, up front, is that those tutorials were not easy to go through, but they are great tutorials. It's just when you've never seen that stuff, they kind of leave out some things that are kind of important, and they kind of make some assumptions about what you know. So, I agree. Everyone should go through. They have a lot of free tutorials on there. But if you're having any trouble, like, know that you can Google and use other resources to kind of supplement what you're going through on there. Cool. So the first thing we're going to do that we're going to break down is we're going to break down kind of their service catalog and kind of what they have available to us. You can see up in the top here. So obviously this is, the AWS logo. This will take you back home. Let's make this a little larger. This will take you back home, to this page. And then next to this, we have services. So this is their bread and butter. This is where they make their money. And when I click services, you can see it gives me a drop down of a ton of services, and I can split them up, in a few different ways. I can group them by service type, or by the resources that that you're basically renting from them for this type of service, or you can do A to Z. If you know the name of the service you want, you can see it's A to Z. So you can already see this is why knowing the cloud is valuable, because these companies put out all of these services. You might ask me, hey, like, do you really know all those services? No, I do not know all these services. They have what I would call core services that most companies would expect you to know. And they have a lot of extra services that are kind of pluses and things that you can use to supplement the tasks you're doing, and that are a little more specialized. But yeah, this is where all their services are, and we're gonna go through those in a second. I'm not gonna talk about resource groups right now. But yes, resource groups are there. You can pin certain things up here. So if you use certain services, you can pin those up top so that you don't have to click into this services menu. And then you have your account name, you have your region. We're going to talk about regions and availability zones shortly. You have a region here. You can see these are places all around the world, because remember I said this computing is distributed. You can set up these resources in any part of the world that you'd like. There are caveats for this, and there are pluses and minuses for this. You generally want to put your services closest to where your users are going to be. So if you have people in Hong Kong using your site and that's where your main user base is, that's where you might want to put your site, even if you're in America. And then, we'll talk about regions, and then you have some support here so you can, get some training, get some documentation. If you want to get to documentation, Amazon has tons of documentation. It's average. The documentation is average. You'll find, because they have so many services that move fast, you will use it enough. You will find mistakes. You'll find things that they just haven't included yet. So it's a working process, but you can find out tons of information from Amazon documentation. What else do we have here? And the rest of this is just some extra stuff that you can go, this is the main thing these are the main things you want to worry about. You can also find services here. You can type them in if you want to search for them. But cool. Services, let's start out with EC2. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. Again, EC2 is Elastic Compute Cloud. EC2 is pretty good. It's pretty cool. Actually, what's happening here? Let me click over. Yeah, so you can see here how this might be overwhelming. There's a lot of information right here, and feeling like you need to understand what all this stuff is. It'll come in time. You don't need to know what every little thing on this page is, and it really isn't important. The first thing is just understanding that EC2 stands for Elastic Compute Cloud. This is absolutely what I would consider to be one of their core services, and this is what you would think of if you needed a server being made up of all of those compute resources that we talked about. So if you need CPU and RAM and disk space and maybe video cards, and you need that kind of full suite, that computer replication, this is what you would use. So if you need to rent a server, if that's what your needs are, you need a server or something server-like, you can rent EC2. This is under the compute resource. Actually, we might need to back up, but this is under the compute resource. So again, think CPU. This is under processing. So what you're really paying for here, or what the goal is with this, is really the compute piece. You're paying for compute time and processor time. So you're paying to be able to do workloads that crunch numbers and do a lot of logical processing. That is what kind of EC2 is used for. Again, EC2 is pretty robust and pretty. You can use it for a lot of things. So it doesn't just need to be for that, but that's essentially what it's designed for. That's why it's in compute. That's the thing that you're paying for the most, even though you do get those other things with it, even though you do get that RAM, even though you do get that hard drive space, disk space. But yeah, maybe we'll back up first and talk about, again, the service categories really quick. So again, we went over CPU compute. So we've got a lot of options here in compute. And you might ask yourself, why do I need so many different things that do that type of processing? They all have their different uses. These are all very specific things. These are two big container orchestrators. They're very different in the way that they operate. And they are for different clients for sure. Lightsail and EC2 they're similar. Lightsail is a VPS service. So if you're thinking of a server, Lightsail is where you would go, as well. If you just wanted to grab a server, EC2 provides you a similar functionality, but you actually have much greater functionality and much greater options. You have a lot of options for enterprise customers. So again, this is the Elastic Compute Cloud. So you have things like auto scaling. So you can automatically make way more EC2 instances. If you're running out of capacity, you can make, Amazon will automatically spin you up new EC2 instances and things like that. But there's a lot of benefits that come through EC2, but because of that, it's more expensive. Lightsail is for lighter workloads that don't need that kind of flexibility. Same thing here with storage. We talked about storage types. We talked about RAM kind of being a storage type, but short-term storage. These are all long-term storage types, and they all are for different things. Some are for network-backed drives, some are for object storage, and we'll go through all that. But we have compute, we have storage, we have databases. So if anyone's familiar with MySQL or Microsoft SQL or Oracle database, these types of data stores, you no longer need to manage your own. You no longer need to set up a server and install the software software on there. These services allow you to be able to get a database out of the box. You don't have to worry about the management of it. All the patching and everything happens automatically. You don't have to worry about all that. You say, hey, I want a database. They'll give you a username and password and endpoint to log in with, and that's all you need from them, and they take care of the rest, and you work on your application from there. There's also, things for robotics, and they add stuff to that. Blockchain, analytics is a good one. There's a lot of cool stuff in here to be able to figure out what's going on with your data, figuring out what's going on with your traffic, things like that. Stuff for business applications and Internet of Things. So there's a lot of cool things inside of Amazon for, your Alexa smart home stuff, all of that, your smart thermostat. There's a lot of cool stuff in here if you want to develop any smart home things or Internet of Things devices. And then we've got a lot around security, identity, and compliance. And so tonight, we're also going to be talking about IAM, which is Identity Access Manager. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff here about security. Amazon is, tries to be as secure as possible. Security is a big thing nowadays. And they give you a lot of options, and a lot of tools to be able to do that well. Yeah, there's a bunch of other stuff here, but you can see here how they're all broken down into different service this is the service catalog, and these are different categories of things you can rent. So if you're trying to solve a problem, figure out where in these categories that this problem lies. So if you're migrating data from one cloud to another, from a data center that you guys have locally up to the cloud, maybe you want to use something out of here, this migration and transfer hub. Maybe that's something you want to use, or maybe you want to use Snowball. Snowball is actually a physical device that they send you that you can use to migrate data, which is pretty crazy. They actually have a whole truck now. They have an 18-wheeler that drives up to your data center, and you basically plug in all the stuff that you need to transfer all the data to it, and it drives off to Amazon's data centers and plugs back in and transfers all your data into the cloud. So they have a lot of stuff going on that you can use to make sure you can get into the cloud and operate effectively. We've got networking and content delivery. So we've got all these different services, VPCs we'll be talking about in Cloud 53 and CloudFront. And you can see there's so many things in here. But again, that means that there's always something there to solve your problem quickly and easily if you're willing to pay for it. All right, so they have a machine learning image for image training. They do for image training. I'm not sure. Maybe comprehend. I'm not sure which one is for image training, but I'm pretty sure they have something that does that. They do have a lot of machine learning stuff, but I do know that Google has better, at least from what I've heard, better machine learning options. So if your main goal is machine learning, check them both out. I don't do a lot of machine learning stuff at all, but I'm pretty sure they have all that. They have a whole suite of things that you can use for that. All right, so let's go back to EC2. So when we talk about EC2, again, that's that elastic compute cloud. That is what you think of traditionally as a server, and you've got a lot of options here. So one, I have 2 running instances here, it says. So we can click on here, and we can see that I have 2 running instances, and I actually need to spin this down because this was a test one that I did. I might have made this on stream, actually, and I'm being charged for this. So again, everything, actually, this is a free tier. Well, these are free tiers, but almost everything that you do, there's a free tier for almost everything, because Amazon would like you to learn this stuff and get up to speed on it and be able to, learn the stuff on your own, so that they can make money off of you later. But this stuff does cost money, so be careful with it. Free tiers of things, pay attention to them, because they're usually in hours rather than it'll say something like a free year or something like that, but it's in the amount of hours. So if you I could have 10 free servers, or let's make it easier. I could have 12 free servers. So maybe they give you a free server for a year, free micro server for an entire year. But if I have 12 of them, I'll use up my free hours in a month. If they're running at all times, I'll use them all up in a month. So be careful with that. One good thing about Amazon is if you're trying to learn and you run up your bill or something like that, Amazon has so much money. If you open up a support ticket saying, hey, I was just learning this stuff, I was running through a tutorial, and I forgot to spin this service down, they'll give you your money back. I've never seen them not refund you. I've seen people get $2,000 bills refunded because they spun up some giant server and forgot about it. But generally, all the stuff we're going to be going through is even if you are charged for it, it's low money, and they will give you your money back if you do have any problems with that. But if you pay attention, if you pay attention to what you're doing, it shouldn't cost you any money at all while we're running through this stuff. So yeah, AWS, they'll refund you a lot. Like, just reach out. They will plead your case a little bit, and they will refund you your money. They have a lot of money. They can refund you no problem. Your $40 is not a big deal to them, so don't worry about that too much. But I want to show you something interesting here, because the first thing we're going to talk about before we get heavy in the EC2 is regions and availability zones. So we're in the Northern Virginia region. This is the one that's closest to me. Like I said, I'm in Baltimore. It's the one that's closest to me. What happens if I click into US East Ohio? Right here it says I have no instances. So if I'm on the main screen, it says here I have 0 running instances. So this is, you may log in, you may mess around, and you may spin up some instances today, and then you may log in tomorrow, and usually it'll drop you into the same region that you're already in, but it may not. So don't get confused if you see that there are 0 running instances. Take a look, make sure you're in whatever region you picked before. So what are regions? First off, regions are they are geographically separated. They're really clusters of data centers. So again, US East 1, which is Northern Virginia, is a cluster of data centers it's not only in Northern Virginia. I think that's where the main hub is, but there are a cluster of data centers that this resides in. And inside of this region are clusters called availability zones. So I think each of these has 3 availability zones. These are also low latency network data centers. So inside of each of these regions, so regions is the big thing. This is the geographical piece. So, US East 1 and 2. So in Ohio and Northern Virginia and in Northern California, there are these geographic places where your servers will reside. And then inside of they're broken up into these availability zones that are networked together. So the 3 of them, there's usually, you can see here, availability zone US East 1A. There's usually 1A, 1B, and 1C. So inside of this Northern Virginia region, I can put stuff either in 1A, 1B, or 1C. And again, they can all talk to each other really quickly, so there's low latency connections in between them. But if one availability zone were to go down, I could have some redundancy. I could have some fail safes so that my application would decide to fail over into the second availability zone. So it would switch over to US East 1B. So that's why these are important. The cloud allows for this type of redundancy, this type of availability, this type of elasticity, to make sure your application is scalable and always available. So you should 1000% learn about regions and availability zones, but I think it's a little more important for this bootcamp right now to run through the services. So I did want to talk about it a little bit, because you'll hear me speak about regions and availability zones for sure. I want everyone to write down right now to Google a video or Google an article or something about regions and availability zones. Read about them, and actually let's find the Amazon documentation on it. You do need to understand this. You 100% need to understand this. And we can look at their pictures here. And again, a region encapsulates 3 availability zones here. So that's one important thing to remember, that the region is the big one, and availability zones are inside of it. But I'll send this so that you have it. But spend some time, make sure you understand what those things are. Cool. So EC2 instances, again, these are servers. These are 2 separate servers here with different information. They're both running in the same place, US East 1, US East 1A. They have a couple of things here. They're broken down to a few things. So one, they have a name. So this is something called a tag. And so there are a few things you can use to identify an instance. So you can imagine that there are companies that have thousands of these things running at any given time. And names are important because, again, this makes it easy to identify. There are other ways to identify these besides names, but it may be something you want to add in here. If I were to spin up a new instance right now, which we're going to do shortly, this would be blank actually, and I would have to go in and give it a name. You can also change the name at any time. I'll change it to delete me to be able to easily identify it for yourself. Cool. The next thing after name is instance ID. So this is the Amazon's way of identifying, placing an identifier on the instance. So instance ID, you can use that for a lot of different things. We'll talk about that. Then the instance type. We're going to get into instance type shortly, but there are different classes of EC2 instances. So imagine that, that all I want to do is I want to just serve a WordPress site. It's a travel blog, and the only people who are going to be on here are basically my family and friends. So I don't need a lot of compute power because there aren't going to be a lot of people on here. But a company like Google, maybe I shouldn't use Google, a company like I don't know, like Foot Locker, who's selling a bunch of stuff online, needs a lot more power than I need. And so to handle this, there are these things called instance types. And so this allows you to easily be able to rent a certain amount of processing power. A certain amount of processing power along with a certain amount of RAM basically is what this is, a certain amount of compute capacity. And so that's what an instance type is. The T2 designation here, micro will kind of exist across the board. So you see the dot in the middle. There's different sizes. There's micro, there's large, medium, things like that. Those are the sizes. So those are the general sizes of the instance. So, the bigger, the more power you get. But the first piece is the designation of what it's good at. So some things might be CPU heavy workloads. Some things might be graphics heavy workloads. And when we go into launch an instance, we'll have a lot of options. So we'll have T's, and I think we used to have M's, but we're not gonna have M's anymore. And there's R's and there's P's, and each of these has a different strength. So, if I need a lot of RAM, but just a little bit of something else, I'll need to select the proper designation for that. So I might have an R1 micro or an R1 medium or something like that. So this allows you to easily identify what kind of instances it is. The T is for kind of your general purpose workloads. That's kind of the most common type you're going to be running against. And that's what an instance type is. So availability zones, we talked about availability zones. It lets you know where it is. Then it lets you know if it's running or not. And I don't know what's on here, but I'll stop it. And just that easy, I stop this instance. And so this will give you the state here. There are really four instance states that it could be. Running is when it's running. Stopping, I guess there's five. Stopping is when it's stopping. And it'll say stopped once it is stopped. It'll say pending, I think, when you're spinning up an instance, and it's not ready yet. So once you spin one up, it might say pending. And when you delete an instance, it'll be terminated. So usually you'll see one of the three. Usually you'll see stopped, running or stopped, and it'll have a little light to tell you kind of what's going on. Or you'll see terminated, and terminated will also have a red dot just like stopped, which means something has been deleted. It'll still show up here for a little while, but that does mean it's deleted and it is gone. So that's all instance state is. It's pretty straightforward. Everyone kind of knows what the yellow and the green and red light mean with stoplights, but that's what happens there. Status checks let you know the health of the server. So if a server is actually up, if it's up, and you can see that's why this is here but not here, a server that is running will have health checks and status checks to let Amazon know whether or not this is a healthy server. You don't really need to worry about these too much, or what the health checks are doing, but what you do need to know that if one is failing, it'll let you know here, and that means there's probably an issue with the server that needs to be taken care of. There are instances where Amazon will actually take action against it by itself, and there are instances where you'll need to take action. There are times when it's nothing you did wrong. It's just that there's some kind of glitch. Amazon has they're orchestrating tons of people's servers all at once. There could be a networking glitch or networking bug or something that caused an issue with your server. Sometimes you just kill them off and spin them back up, and now you have a working server. But status checks are for that. Or about alarm status. The DNS addresses are what matter. Like once you spin up a server, you need to access it. This is how you can tell the IP address of the server. Remember, IP addresses are how the internet works. This is how you get to a server. And so they give you a public DNS address as well. But the public DNS address may change. I believe maybe they changed that, but if you were to shut down the server and spin it back up, this public DNS address may change and you may get a different public IP address. We'll talk about what that means in a little bit, but if you spin a server down and spin it back up, or shut a server down and start it back up, you may not get the same IP address and the same public DNS address. Like you likely won't. And so you need to be cognizant of that when you are trying to set up servers for companies. You know, if this is a website, you know, that people access, or tied to a domain, you need to get something called an elastic IP address. We'll talk about elastic IPs, but you can basically make a permanent IP address for this so that it never changes, but you have to explicitly do that. Yeah, and then some of the other stuff, key name is important. We talked about keys last time. This is how you get logged into the server. Make sure you know what your key name is. Make sure you don't lose your key, because then it is tough to get back into your system. They'll tell you it's not possible. It absolutely is possible, and I can show you that in a little bit. And some things about some security groups and owners. So there's a lot of information, a ton of information right here, right in front of you. It's overwhelming. I 100% understand. Don't worry about understanding everything that we just talked about. Again, concepts, high-level concepts. Understand that EC2 instances are one of your compute resource types, and that basically it's a server. If you need a server, think EC2, and you can spin up servers of different sizes with different strengths and weaknesses. That's kind of the main piece of EC2. And then as we go through, catch as much as you can about the different things we can do, because there's a lot you can do. It'll take time to know all the things that you can do. I don't even know all the things that you can do with EC2. Like, there's so many services. You'll pick that stuff up over time. You'll end up running across things and Googling things and finding things. Right now, we care about what the services do and what problems they solve. So if you want to host a website, EC2. If you want to run some kind of batch process job, EC2. There are, again, general purpose. There's a lot of things. Almost everything that you can do on all of these other, everything else here, you can do in EC2. So if I wanted to spin up a database, where's the database section? If I want to spin up my own database, I could spin up EC2 because it's a computer. It's simply a computer. All these things are running on computers. It's a computer that you have to manage, though. That's the difference between these things and EC2. If I want to spin up a database, I have to spin up an EC2 instance, install a database, get it configured with username and password, and make sure it has enough space, and set up replication, all this other stuff. I have to do that manually, whereas you don't here. But EC2 allows you to do kind of whatever you want. General purpose, you can do anything you want on there. Yeah, so let's dig into more of what you see here. You also get a lot of information up here up top that you can kind of sort by, but you also get tons of information down here, and all this information is important. But again, you start to know what to look for after you've been in here a lot. But again, I understand that it's a little overwhelming at first. Let's click on this one because it's running. And again, I have a lot of the same information down here. So I have my DNS address, my IP address here, and my instance type. And it'll let you know here. You can hover over and find out, what you get here. And actually, let's go to this product page because I would like to talk about these instance types. It won't even, there we go. Let's see here. Maybe I have to get started. Is it just going to log me in? I want to see a page. Yeah, it's going to log me in. I will worry about that later. But yeah, you get a lot of stuff here. These are some other things that are very important about EC2 instances that you might want to remember or maybe write down. These are deployed. You can deploy pretty much any operating system you want. You can create your own Linux images and Windows images, I believe now. Or maybe always you could. I just don't use Windows. I just don't use Windows servers in any of the jobs that I work on. But you can deploy any type of Linux that you would like to deploy on Amazon. You can build these things called AMIs. AMI stands for Amazon Machine Image. Very important. You might hear some people call it AMIs. I've never called it an AMI before, but Amazon Machine Image. You can build these things. There are tools you can use to build them. One's called Packer that you can use to build these things. There's some other ways you can build them. You can actually do some cool things. You can actually export things from VirtualBox. Actually, you can go in and build an image that you like, and there's some tools available where you can export them from VirtualBox to be able to import into Amazon. But anytime you spin up one of the EC2 instances, again, you're paying for the compute here. So you can kind of run whatever operating system you'd like. No problem. And so it'll give you that information here to let you know exactly what you're running. It looks like here I'm running, Ubuntu. Looks like there's a lot of information about it. I deployed via an image that Amazon already has available. So Amazon has tons of these Amazon images available to you. Usually they'll be fine. There are times when you need certain companies and things, you need to build your own to solve very specific tasks, but Amazon has a lot of these available for you. So those are very important. Again, remember Amazon Machine Images. Security groups. Amazon is, again, very secure. You have to explicitly give access to your server. So security groups, let's actually look at what a security group looks like. We talked about this last time. We talked about the protocols. Go back to the protocols lesson. Remember, port 80 is the one for HTTP, which is the internet protocol. And this is port 22. This is SSH. So by default, when you spin up an EC2 instance, you'll only get, out of the box, you will only get this rule right here. You only get access to be able to log into your instance by default. You can specify other things in your security group, but a security group is just a set of rules, a set of networking rules to be able to allow connections to and from your instance. So don't sweat it too much if you don't know what you're looking at here, or don't remember what protocols these are. Like, don't sweat that. That's not important. Remember that you can, by default, the only access you get to an EC2 instance is to log into it. Nothing else. Out of the box, won't do anything else. If something's ever not working, if you set something up and you can't access it or it's not working, it's usually a security group problem. If you know you did everything else right. So security groups, you have access to that information here. You can change these things afterwards. So even if I have a new security group that I want to apply to it, I can change all that. It's not a big deal. You can change these things later. Other than that, I don't think we need to dive deep into all these little options here at all. I almost never have to scroll below right here. Like usually the key pair is the thing I have to check just to make sure I know which keys I'm using, but all the information you need is really centered up here at the top. And again, you can click in here to see status checks and monitoring and tags and stuff, and more information about your server. So you have that, play around with it, click on those things, see what you can see. You get some information about network traffic and how much CPU you're utilizing here. But yeah, this is the main information you'll want to use. So let me check. Let's go through chat. Is port serverless? Yes, we'll absolutely do some. We have a lab on Lambda. Lambda's pretty cool. We'll talk about serverless. Misnomer: serverless is not really serverless. Obviously, it has to run on a computer somewhere, but it's a computer that you don't care about, that you don't have to manage at all. So we'll talk about that for sure. How come they don't list the government agencies that supply on their featured customer section? That is an interesting point. They might on there. So there's a separate cloud offering they have that's similar to this. And it's called Amazon Gov Cloud, I believe. And these are all tools that have been FedRAMP certified, various levels of FedRAMP certifications. FedRAMP basically is just a certification method for AWS services to be used inside of government organizations. And so this Gov Cloud has services that it doesn't have all the services available to it. It only has services that fit that have been certified in some way through this process. So there is that. I'm not sure why they don't post those. They don't post those things on their customers list. But there are a lot of government organizations using Amazon Web Services for sure. Is there an AMI for Temple OS? Maybe there's AWS has a marketplace where people can upload images and tools and things for Amazon, and so you can check there. Out of the box, they do not. They definitely do not have one out of the box. They may have one. I Googled, maybe they have one in here. Maybe you can find one in the marketplace. So just Google Amazon Marketplace, AWS Marketplace. Maybe you can find one in there, but if not, you can always create one and you can publish it actually on the Amazon Marketplace. But yeah, I'm not sure if they have one. They do not have one out of the box. Connect a company VPN. They gave me an OTP over the phone to connect. How can I do it with open source? So getting the one-time password over the phone, doing it with open source, they would have to give you access to whatever they were using to generate that code. They would have to give you access to plug that into some type of manager for that. So there are a bunch. There are Authy, there's Google Cloud Platform, Google Authenticator. There's a bunch of authentication programs for one-time passwords. There are some command line open source tools. I can't think of the name of one of them off my head that I've used before, but they do have them available. But either way, they would have to give you some access to be able to authenticate with their service for doing that. But yeah. Invite to the Slack channel. Oh, okay, yeah, I can post that in a second. I guess that one expired. Yeah, I will actually. Let me generate one right now because I don't want to forget. So, new invite, the Slack channel. It's one, invite people, share, invite link, copy. All right. Here is an updated Slack invite. I will update that in the, I remember the chat command to, whoops. That's not what I meant to do. I wanted to see the chat commands, whatever. I'll figure out how to chat command it, update that, but I can update that link. But that is the new Slack one. But cool, so let's launch an instance really quick. And so this way we'll be able to see a lot of things. And we'll be able to talk about a lot of the options that we have for this. So the very first thing that we get to do is we get to choose that Amazon machine image. So what is the operating system that we would like as a part of our the machine that we're deploying? And so by default, they give you some options. Amazon has developed their own Linux called Amazon Linux that is it's tailored for a lot of these services you would use to do normal web hosting. It's got a lot of tools kind of built in out of the box that are commonly used. Like I think you get like stuff like Python and stuff right out of the box, so you don't have to do that. So you do have Amazon Linux as an option to you. You also have Red Hat. So Red Hat is Linux made from the company or supported by the company Red Hat, and it's enterprise Linux that you can use. You have SUSE Linux, so SUSE and OpenSUSE. You have Ubuntu. You have Windows. So again, you can use Windows through here. It is not Linux only. And then you've got some extra stuff. So if you want one that's catered towards deep learning, looks like they developed some stuff for that. You got a lot of options here. So they've included a lot more than I'm actually used to. And you'll learn in a few streams, like I actually don't deploy servers manually through here. That's why that AMI ID is important. You don't actually need to go through here, but we're gonna go through here this time. But you can go ahead and select one. You can also see the ones that you uploaded here, that you've imported, or you can grab one from the AWS Marketplace. So you can grab them from right here. But I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna select. Let's do Amazon Linux. So select Amazon Linux. So first piece over. Amazon Linux is interesting. I like Amazon Linux a lot, but the way they have a special way of managing packages inside of Amazon Linux, which I don't like. You can still use Yum, I believe, but they have some ways of enabling packages that are already like they have some packages that are already there that you have to just enable and not actually install, which is really weird. But it's cool. It works well. It's very well supported by them. It's something they would hope for you to use. But yeah, it's a fine Linux distribution. So this is where it's important. If you don't want to get charged for anything, you can use this free tier, which is the T2 Micro. So T2 instances, again, this tells you your classifications, provides a baseline level of CPU performance with the ability to burst above baseline. So you have basically they're saying you have a limit, you have a CPU limit that if you need to, for a temporary period of time, you can burst above that and use more resources than you actually have. And that's after you get these CPU credits. That's deeper, but yes, we're just reading about what this instance type, what kind of cool tools it actually gives to us. But again, it's free tier eligible, so probably select that one. But you can scroll down and see here how we have T3s now. I switched to my phone. Oh, okay, there we go. Sorry about that. That was an alarm. And actually, it switched off my Spotify music because my alarm is Spotify. So there we go. Wrong thing. All right, cool. We're back to normal. But yeah, you can see here how if we go through, we have T3s instead of T2s. And if we go even deeper, we have some M's. So I think M's are memory. I think our memory optimized, so you'll get more memory than for your money. And you can kind of see here what you get. So you can see this column here. You have your virtual CPUs. So this is, again, this is a number that kind of lets you know how much processor usage you're getting. So you can see here too, obviously a medium is twice the processor. You get twice the virtual CPUs of the micro. So that's, double the amount. Same thing with RAM. So right now we're going to get one virtual CPU and 1 gig of memory. And we're going to talk about the storage section in a bit, but, yes, those are the options you get. And the free tier is always going to be this general purpose, T2 micro, at least for the time being. So we're going to click next. You could just go ahead and deploy that if you don't want to select some other options, but we want to make sure we know what these options are. So, is the T2 Nano not eligible free tier? Yes, that, I know it's confusing, but correct. The T2 Nano is not free tier eligible. You do not get that for free. You only get this one for free. And make sure you look here it says for the first 12 months. So you get up to 750 hours of micro each month. So it's by hours. So if you spin up a bunch of these, you can't leave them up at all times. It is important to note that those hours, if you shut the instance down, does not count towards your hours. That's how you can save money. If an instance is shut down, you do not pay for compute time. You do pay for storage though. So these do have storage attached to them. If you have storage attached to them, you will pay for that storage. But that's free tier eligible for now for those 12 months as well, I believe. But just for cost savings, it's something that's very important to know that instances that are shut down don't cost you any money. You're not paying for that. You're not using the compute time, so you don't pay for the compute time. But if you're using storage that's attached to it, you will pay for that storage because you don't want to lose those things. So yeah, so if you want to save your hours, you can shut these instances down. Cool. So we're going to select the free tier and we're going to click next to go to instance details. We can tell it how many instances we want. So obviously right now I just want one, but you could spin up more than one at once, which is really nice. All right, purchasing options. So a lot of what AWS offers is the ability to save money. So people will tell you, hey, switch to the cloud, you'll save money. This is true in a lot of circumstances. This is not true across the board. The cloud is not always cheaper, but you also have to know how to use the cloud to make it cheaper. So there are a lot of tools and things you can use to make sure things are cheaper. So purchasing options. You actually have 3 types of EC2 instances. You have on demand. So that's the one we're going to spin up now. It says, hey, when I want an EC2 instance, when I'm ready to have one, whenever I need one, I want to spin it up and I will pay the rate that you've selected for on-demand instances. This is actually the most expensive of the options that we have that we're going to talk about, and you'll pay for that time. Then you have both you have spot instances and you have reserved instances. So reserved instances are are instances that you say, hey, I know that I'm going to need this many instances or these instances for this period of time, and I'm willing to, for a discount, I'm willing to pay upfront for those instances. And you obviously, you know, from like most things, if you pay up front, you get a discount. So you let Amazon know how many you want, how long you need them, and they will provide you a fairly significant discount to if you pay for those things up front. You can also do partial, like I think you can do partial payments on that. I think you can pay for like the first 6 months and I'll pay like less monthly after that. And they got some stuff in there for that, but that is another way to save money if you know you're going to need a certain amount of instances. Spot instances allow you to kind of bid, and we'll talk about why, like when it makes sense to use spot instances, but it allows you to put in a price and bid for instance space. So Amazon has a lot of cool stuff, way of optimizing both their costs and their usage. And you know, if you have some batch jobs that need to run, if you have jobs that like aren't super, need to happen right now, and you know, you can take servers as you get them, spot instances allow you to basically say how much I'm willing to pay, and if you bid higher than the current spot price, they'll give you some spot instances that are brought up, and it's lower than on-demand pricing, and then if not, they'll spin those services down, and you won't have access to those if you bid higher. So it's a very interesting way of kind of bidding for server space if you don't want to pay full on-demand pricing for that. And you can see here, it says it can lower your instance cost by up to 90%. So those are very specific use cases for these things. And most of what people pay you for to be a cloud engineer is to know this stuff. It's to know when is a good time to use reserved instances and a good time to use spot instances or on-demand instances. That's what they're paying you for, really. It's really not complicated. It just is it's like, I got to get familiar with this stuff. That's the hardest part, taking the time to get familiar with all this stuff. So we have all that. We have a lot of options here. Networking options. We're not going to talk about the networking options. We're going to talk about VPC's next class, subnet's next class. So we'll leave all the defaults here. You can leave all the defaults there as well. Placement groups, leave all that. Roles are important. We're going to talk about IAM shortly. Hopefully in the next 10 minutes, we'll get to IAM stuff. But roles, basically these are going to be your permissions. And so we'll leave that as none for now. And then you can see here we have tons and tons more options. You can tell it what it's going to do when you shut it down, and that's going to be whether you want it to stop or terminate. So you can have things automatically terminate when they stop if you'd like, or you can protect against deletion. So if you don't want something to be deleted, it's very important, you can click that. And then you have some options for logging and all this other stuff. There's a lot of stuff here. User data. Very important. You don't need to do anything with it, but understanding what user data is important. User data is an initialization script that runs, it doesn't run on any, it doesn't run on all Linux distributions, but it runs on a lot of them, especially the ones that they give you out of the box. And basically this allows you to set up, to basically run certain things when the instance is spun up. So I could put things in here like create this user, like things that we've learned before, and create these directories. And I want you to download this file and move these things around. If I need my service to have these things done at the beginning, I can paste it right here, or I can import a file and it will go ahead and it'll initialize that script. It'll run that user data script when the server boots up, and it'll take care of all those things for you. So we're not doing that right now, but you have that option available to you. So knowing that you can run, you can run scripts, or you can run commands on startup to do some configuration of a server is very important. Then we get to storage. Storage is very important. So the storage of an EC2 instance is you have two. As of right now, you have two storage options. There are more storage options, but the storage options I want you to worry about are two storage options. You have instant storage. So instant storage out of the box. If I were to not select this, actually, I'm surprised. I actually don't even know how to select an instant store. The root volume. Maybe that's it by default. So an instant store, I'll check this in a second because I'm a little confused. But an instant store is It is storage that is attached directly to the instance, and it is ephemeral. So when the instance goes away, that storage goes away. It doesn't stay around for good. And so again, you can use it to, the operating system is installed on there. You can use it to save files, etc. But once you kill that instance, it's gone. It's gone forever. And you can't get that back. But what a lot of people use is something called EBS, which is Elastic Block Store. And you would think that EBS would be its own service and maybe listed in its own service now, but I doubt it. Yeah, it's not listed as its own service. It's a part of EC2, and this is something they needed to give you that same server experience. EBS stands for Elastic Block Store. This allows you to basically take the compute instance is one thing, and it sits over here and you pay for this. Elastic Block Store is here and it connects to it and you can save all your stuff to it, but it is completely independent from this. So if you spin this down or you delete this, you can keep all the data that's on here. So you can attach this to anything you want. You can also move this block storage. So if I set up an EBS block store here, I can move it to whatever instance I want. So if I want to put it over on instance over here, I got an instance, I'll move it, take it off of instance 2 and move it over to instance 30. I have the ability to take that and move that over to instance 30. This is the way that you can actually, if you lose your key, this is the way that you can actually be able to gain access to your server. You'll have to move your EBS store over to a new server or a new compute instance. But yeah, so you can set up some storage here. And I guess actually maybe it does. Actually, let me go back and then back into storage. Maybe the root volume does stick around. So cool. You get up to 30 gigs for free. I'm going to delete this EBS volume because I don't want to pay for any EBS stuff. And how do I remove this? Nah, that's fine. I'll keep it because I don't know how to delete it. Maybe if I just clean it to 0. Does that help? Seems like it helps. All right, cool. Add tags. Oh, man. Can I just not scroll? Oh, there we go. Cool. It's gone from there. So this is going to be your instance storage. So once I delete this instance, it's going to be gone. But again, you get 30 gigs for free. So you can do up to 30. So I'll do 30 gigs. Add tags. This is where you can add your name. You don't have to add it here, but you can add a tag of name and value, stream setup, and security groups. We'll leave it here with the default security group, and we'll review it and we'll launch. It'll give you an overview of all the things you selected, and click launch. And here we go. I don't know if I have any of these, so I'm going to create a new key pair. So when you do this, you need to create a key pair. You need to make sure you have your key pair, but you can apply this key pair to as many servers as you want. So I create one key pair and select it to be used with all the servers I spin up. But let's do today's. So today's date. So 09/16/2019 is what I want the key pair name to be. And then make sure you go ahead and you download it. So save that file. And did it download? Yeah, it downloaded. And I'm going to go ahead and launch this instance. So I know that seemed like a lot because we stopped and we went through and we talked about all the things we were doing. But remember, I said this is on demand. So for any of you who don't know how this would work, the way that this would have worked previously before cloud computing is I would have gone on to HP or Dell's website and I would have paid thousands of dollars to order a server, a computer. I would have taken that. It would have taken time for it to get delivered. I would have taken that thing. I would have unboxed it. Someone would have had to put it on a rack and wired it up. So to have to plug in the power, plug in Ethernet, all the network connections that we need to it. Then I'd have to pop in a USB drive or a CD, and I have to go ahead and get the AMI, so that machine image. I'd have to pop in a CD with a Linux distribution on it, and I have to go ahead and install that. And then I have to configure it properly. I have to set up my networks and things like that on there just to get it up. This is a process that can take weeks to do. Now we've done this on demand. We've done it in less than a half an hour. You can spin up an EC2 instance in a minute if you need to, and we've done that on demand right now. So that is the difference. That is why it's so powerful, because I have on demand access to this. I can spin up infrastructure that could serve a huge company that's a lot of traffic, myself, sitting here, I could spin up the same level of infrastructure, the same computing power to be able to do that. I have that access. So, I can be one person running a giant company. And it's crazy how much access this is given anybody. But it says my instance is now launching. It's probably already done. You can see here, already running. Just like that. It is already running. So let me make this a little bit smaller. And I've got this instance here. So the reason it's only showing me one instance is because I clicked on the button to search for that. But you can see here, I have 3 instances now. And, maybe I gave it the wrong tag for name. But there's no name here, but I'll give it a name. Stream example. Cool, but you can see here the status checks are initializing, but instance state is up, and I could use that key to log in. But I don't think we need to log in today. You see me log into a server before. We don't need to log into that. We just need to talk about, again, this is your generic server. This is what you think of when you need a server. But what you are really paying for is the compute. You're paying for the compute resources. You have options for what kind of compute you need. If you need something that's RAM intensive, you can pay for that specifically, and that's with the instance type. You can do RAM. You can do things that are memory intensive, things that are graphics intensive. You can do things. You can use I don't know what they are, but you can use field programmable gate arrays. I actually have no idea what these are. I learned these when I was studying for one of the AWS certs that I have. But I think they used an acronym, Dr. McGiffPicks, to be able to remember all the letters that you need for all the options they have. I don't remember those anymore. But yeah, there are a bunch of different server types. So I need you to remember that there are different server types, and they come in different sizes. So micro and nano and large and medium and extra large. So you can choose. You have that choice to figure out how much computing power that you need. I need you to remember that EC2 instances, they have 2 storage options. So by default, you get a storage option out of the box called instant storage. And that instant storage basically lasts for as long as the instance lasts. If you should delete that instance, you will no longer have access to any of that data. But a lot of times you do want access to that data. You don't want to lose that data at all. So you have the option of spinning up something called EBS. That's an EBS store, so elastic block storage. So just know that there is a thing that you can use to keep your data around forever. And actually, EBS is kind of nested under here. Where is it? Volumes, elastic volumes. You can spin up, because I told you that these EC2 instances are separate from the block storage. You can spin them up separately. And you can see here that I have 3 that are in use. I can disconnect one, make it out of use, and I can move it to another server. But just remember, you have an option for keeping your data around forever. And again, I can create a volume without creating EC2 instance, because these are 2 independent things. But just remember, that is how you keep your data forever, or around for as long as you want on an instance. What else do we want to talk about? Also, remember that if you turn off an EC2 instance and turn it back on, that you might get a different IP address, or that you're probably getting a different IP address. That's very important. And other than that, again, it's called Elastic Compute Cloud because it is elastic. So it can actually grow. Your service can actually grow and contract kind of with your usage. So you can actually, I didn't want to talk about auto scaling here that much, because we're going to be talking about auto scaling, I think at the beginning of next week. But basically, they call it elastic because I can set up these things called auto scaling groups. And let's say I have this server, I can say, hey, Amazon, once this server is being 50% utilized for 20 minutes, go ahead and give me another server, because I want to make sure I can handle that load. And automatically, Amazon will spin me up a brand new server. I don't have to intervene at all. It will just happen. It'll spin up a second server. I'm getting a lot of traffic for 20 minutes. It spins up another server alongside it, a replica of this server. It does all the networking. It does all that stuff. And now it puts it it puts it behind a load balancer. And now I've got 2 servers that can accept traffic here to handle the load. And I can say, hey, keep going. I want 3, I want 4, you can give me up to 10 servers. And so that is where the value in EC2 comes from. That's why it's called Elastic Compute Cloud, because you can spin it up to meet your demand and bring it down. So servers can, get bigger. They can spin you a bigger server. So I can say, hey, maybe instead of going out like that, when I get too much traffic, give me a larger server. So right now I've got a Nano. Actually, go ahead and spin me up a medium server over here, and then delete this one. It'll spin up another one and delete this one, and then it'll go up to a large. So it's very interesting in the ways that you have to be able to address the traffic that you're getting to. You can always be properly provisioned. So a lot of where the expense comes in with hosting and computing like this is you usually, if I had to go ahead and, like I said, on HP or Dell site and order a server, I'd have to order something that would be future proof, that would last me into the future, and so I'd have to spend a lot of money, and I would basically have a server that I'm underutilizing. I might be using 10% of that server, because my traffic hasn't grown to the level that server can handle. But I'd have to do that because it's not easy to get new servers. Here, you can run your server at 80-90% utilization as long as you want, and because you can grab a new server almost instantly. I mean, within minutes, you can have a new setup server. So you can save, excuse me, I was gonna say, I'm sorry. But you can save some money. You can save some money by doing things like that, which is very interesting. But that is essentially what EC2 is. We're going to be doing a lot with EC2. Again, get in there, hop around, spin up one or 2 servers, see if you can get logged in. I showed you how to log in. You have to use that key, but refer to the last stream and the previous stream before that to kind of watch how you get logged in if you need to. Amazon has some good tutorials on getting logged in as well. But that's just some of the things you have available to you, and those are the things that I think are important there. So that was a lot. I told you this will be very information dense. We're about to hop over into IAM, but I'm going to go through. I've been ignoring the chat, just trying to get through some of that. So let me run through, make sure everyone's good. Ask any questions you need right now. And we'll try to get those questions out of the way for EC2 so that we can move over to IAM. But just like the other things that we've done, this is not the last you'll see of this. We're not moving away from this at all. Just giving you this information so you're up to speed when we're actually hands-on building things with this. Using Oracle as a vendor, agreed. I hope no one from Oracle is watching or sees this, but yeah, I mean, I wouldn't use right now. There's only a handful of cloud providers that I would use. If you're using Oracle as a vendor, you probably have done something wrong. All of their users right now are companies they've kind of coaxed into, who are already in using Oracle products, and they've kind of stuck with Oracle. But yeah, I be careful with stuff like that. Vendor lock-in. I used to be a big don't get locked into a vendor, but you're always locked into a vendor. Realistically, it gets tough to move. Like nowadays, I guess you have to build your applications in a way that you can move wherever you want. But I don't know, vendor lock-in, I'm not as scared of it as I used to be, because you're kind of locked in no matter what. The 2 storage types are instant EBS. No, they are instant store. Instant store and elastic block storage. There are more, but those are the 2 I need you to think about now. Yeah, for that one. Yeah, so cool. So again, a lot of information there. Feel free to mess around. Again, if you're gonna mess around, stick within the free tier band. I wouldn't mess around with any other sizes. The free tier will be more than useful enough for you to go in and do all the things you need to do when you're trying to learn. It is for sure sufficient enough to do all those things. So mess around with that stuff. And I'm actually gonna go ahead and delete this now before I forget. I want to delete the delete me one, but I'm not sure what it has on it. Let me just make sure something's there. Cool, and you'll see that start to spin down. But that's just, you can see how much information was in just this one service. And a lot of the services are like this, have a lot of options for you to deal with. But yeah, that is the, options are actually a good thing. Options are how you save money. All these options, again, are what make you valuable. So as you learn this stuff, learning these things are what make you valuable. I know I probably do know information about everything that's in EC2, but that's because I've been dealing with it for a while. There are a lot of services here that I don't know a lot, like everything about. IAM being one of them. I know a lot about IAM, which I would argue is the most important service in Amazon. But there's plenty about IAM I don't know, or that I have to Google about every day, to be honest. So yeah, so now we'll go into IAM. There are actually, so a little tidbit about IAM, there are actually jobs specifically at companies that are large enough specifically for people to do this, to manage identity and access, to do the security, basically, to make sure the right people and things are accessing things. So in Amazon, you have control. You can give specific control to just about everything, to anything. So it's not just to a user. So you see users and groups here, but there are also roles here. And not only can I give users access to certain things, explicit access to certain things, I can, or groups, the services, the services and the resources that I spin up with Amazon, that I configure with Amazon, I usually have to explicitly give those things access to other services and resources. So, to an EC2 instance that wants to use some other service, like S3 or RDS, I have to explicitly give those things access to talk to each other, or I may have to, or I can lock down. I can lock down Amazon in a way that, like, everything only has access to what it needs to have access to. And that sounds great, because, security is a big thing, but it can be very daunting, keeping track of all these permissions and roles and things, and the ways that you set them up. So we're gonna go into that. But, also it is used to, again, manage users and groups, which are very important. So you can see here, actually, let's take a look at this first thing. So, Amazon advises that you don't do much of anything through your root account, to be honest. And so I have some root access keys. We'll talk about access keys in a second. But it lets me know here that I should delete those right now, which I will do shortly. But it gives you some other options to be as secure as possible. So MFA, you saw that I had to sign in with 2 factors to get in. It says create individual IAM users. So usually, for different tasks, different things, you want to create different IAM users for this stuff. You don't really want to have people sharing IAM users or like, if you have jobs or something like that are having to interact with Amazon, you don't really want them using the same IAM user. You would like to separate those things for security reasons. Groups, same thing like Linux groups. You can basically take a bunch of users, stick them in a group, and then you only have to worry about permissions for that group. You don't have to worry about individual permissions for that user. And then a password policy. So you can say, hey, I need passwords to be 24 characters long, and I need an uppercase letter, a lowercase letter. I need, special characters, numbers, things like that. That's what a password policy is. And setting that up is super easy. They have options for that. But users, how do you set up users here? You can see this is pretty simple. I've got my root account, which is Abrooks. Lets you know how long your access keys and stuff are available for. Again, we're about to talk about that shortly. Lets you know when, like, how long I've had my password and last activity and MFA. So actually, you saw me log in as the root user and not actually as Abrooks. So I haven't actually used Abrooks for anything, which I should start using it for. But I actually don't do much with this AWS account at all. So, and then here I have a Circle CI user. I set up this user for a stream, actually, I actually did a CI CD stream already, but we'll be talking about CI CD later. Circle CI is the tool that we use for that. And I had to set up a user for that, but those are here. I can go ahead now. I still need this. I need the Circle CI user. Actually have something through there. So I'll leave those set up right now, but let's create a new user. And we'll call this user mastermind. And so this is what you will go through if you needed to create a user. Pretty simple. All right, this is where that access key and secret key matter. So you have 2 ways of accessing Amazon. So Amazon is actually just one giant API. So basically there are endpoints that you can hit to do everything basically that Amazon does. So you can access it in two ways. I can access it how I'm doing right here from the console. So everything you see in the browser, everything's gonna be doing here. I can access everything here and do it through here. But that's a little bit cumbersome. The benefits of the cloud are that I can do things programmatically. I can do things quickly, through code, through the command line, and that's called programmatic access. So I have two options here. So I'll give this user both options. Programmatic access, you get an access key and a secret key because you need to be able to authenticate with Amazon and make sure and let Amazon know that you are who you say you are. So you get those two things, basically a username and a password. The username and password basically. But they give you the key. They generate a secure key and secret key for you, and I'll get both of those things shortly. Password. I will auto-generate the password. I'm gonna delete this user as soon as we're done. So I would blur everything out, but not that serious for this. I'm not gonna give this user access to do that much stuff. And you can do things like require password reset when you log in, but nah, I'm not gonna do that. So permissions. Here's where we can start to give the user access. So by default, all they would have access to do is log in right now. I haven't given them any permissions. So once they logged in, they wouldn't have access to really do much of anything. And I can attach policies. So I already have this DevOps group set up, and it kind of gives me some information about what that has access to. But I can also attach policies directly or copy from an existing user. I can click on here. They'll give you some policies, some standard policies. Amazon has created these policies for you, but you can also create your own policy. But maybe I want to check out. Maybe we did EC2. Maybe I want to do only. This person wants to have EC2 access only. I don't want them to be able to do anything else, but anything they want to do with EC2. So there's a bunch of stuff here, and maybe let me see if I can find one that's already been made. EC2 full access. This seems right. And you click here to see what they have. So cool, EC2 full access. And as we said, it tells me what people have access to. So all this stuff, and that's all I want to give them. And then you can also click here and see JSON. So you can write these, you can codify these policies. So again, I said this is a giant API. So I could write basically a policy that gives certain access, and this is what it would look like. And when we get to the infrastructure as code piece, we will be writing these policies, absolutely. But that's just if you want to see what it looks like. You can copy and paste it if you like. But cool, I'm gonna just add that. So I've attached that one, and I'm gonna next tags. I'm not even gonna tag it. I'm gonna hit review, and I'm gonna create this user that only has EC2 access. When you create this user, do not go past this page. This page is very important. Make sure you go ahead and download this CSV. It will download a CSV file for you with this information. It'll give you the link to log in. So it'll give this. It'll give the user the access key, the secret key, and the password. You need all those things. And so you want to provide that to the person, or just send them this email with the login instructions. You can do that as well. You can click show, and that'll show you, your secret key and access key. I shouldn't be showing you this because one of you can copy this right now if you like and go spin up some stuff. But again, I just shut it down. It's not a big deal. I'm not really worried about it right now. I'm gonna delete this user right after too. So if you really feel that malicious and you want to go ahead and try that stuff, go ahead, have some fun. You only have EC2 stuff, so you can't really do much else. But I downloaded that, but you do need to do something with this. So this will give me console access. I can log in as this user through here, but AWS has a command line tool called the AWS CLI. I was trying to think if it was just called AWS, but let's see if I have it installed. So I don't have it installed, but let's install it really quick, just so I could show you. Do I have pip? By default, so if you have brew, I think you can just do like brew install AWS CLI. I actually think on here I can do that too. I think I just use apps. I think it's AWS. Let's try this. That was dumb. Sudo apt-get install AWS, let's see, it might be AWS CLI. I always forget the name of the package. Let's try this. All right, cool. AWS CLI. This might not give me the newest one. They tell you to use pip to install this. And so pip is Python, I think Python package manager. I don't know what the I stands for, but it's a package manager for Python. There's if you just Google how to install it, Amazon's documentation will come up so that you can install that. But this allows you to interact with Amazon, and like the same way that we've been doing things in the console. This allows me to interact with it from the CLI. So I need to set up my CLI to use that secret key and access key. So I'm gonna type in AWS configure, and it's gonna ask me for that access key. So I'm gonna copy and paste that. Paste it in. It's gonna ask for the secret key. I'm gonna copy this and I'm gonna paste. And default region, you don't have to put anything here, but I'm gonna put US East 1. And default output, I'll leave it. So cool. So now I have access to AWS commands. So let's just do AWS help. We have a bunch of options here. The AWS CLI is pretty cumbersome. And I would actually not use your man pages to figure out what to do. I would actually Google it and search through Amazon documentation to be able to use their stuff. But I can do things like this. The servers that I've spun up, I can do like AWS EC2, and what is it? Describe instances. And now, I know there's a lot here. It comes back, your output format, you can change it right now. It's coming back as an output format called JSON. Don't sweat it if you don't know what JSON is, but this is how I can programmatically get information. All the information that we saw in the console, all that information is here. So you can see image ID and instance ID and when it was launched and my private DNS name or my private IP, all this stuff, all this information comes through from the command line. I can get all of this information here. And once you understand how to manage and deal with JSON and parse through JSON, you can use this to do things automatically and programmatically, which is really, really powerful. And we'll learn how to do all that. But I just wanted to show you that you could interact with Amazon programmatically through the command line and through the CLI. So maybe if I wanted to see things like my S3 buckets, what S3 buckets do I have? I've got a bunch of S3 buckets right here. I can also check from here. So I can do AWS S3 ls. Where have we seen ls before? That is the Linux command to list the things that are in a directory. And oh, look at that. That's very, very, very cool. That shows IAM at its finest off the bat. So my AWS command line is set up, but I have an access denied here because I only gave this user access to EC2. So I don't have access to do anything in S3. Great thinking to try sudo, but that will not work because I only gave this user access to access EC2. So when I ran that EC2 describe instances, I can run all the EC2 commands I want. I can run, let's see, like EC2 help. There's a lot of things that I can do. I can give it IP addresses and attach, an EBS volume. I can do all that from the command line. But I can run any of these things against EC2. I can delete it, all that stuff, but it will not let me run any AWS S3 commands because I did not give this user access to S3, which is cool. So let's hop back into IAM and see if I can give this user access to S3. And we created the mastermind user. And let's add some permissions. Let's say I want to give them, I forgot that this person's going to need S3 access. And let's see if there's any S3 policies here. So I can give S3 full access. I'm giving this person full access for time's sake, but I'll show you in a second how granular I can get with this. So give it a couple seconds. Cool. You can see here, just that fast, it went through, propagated, and now I can list all the buckets that are here. I can see all the files that are in, let's see, www.mastermind.io. I can see all the files that are inside of this bucket. I can access this bucket now. I could write a policy. I don't have to give myself access to all of these. I could say, hey, user mastermind, you only have access to the mastermind bucket, the mastermind IO bucket, and the www.mastermind.io bucket. You can get that granular. So if I want someone to only be able to have access to these things, I can specify exactly what items they have access to, which is great. Great for security. Great for security, but that's essentially what IAM is. You can manage those roles, those access, those rules. Sorry, not roles. The access. Now, roles are for you to assign those same types of securities and parameters and access control lists to resources. To resources inside of AWS, as well as users outside of this AWS account. So let's say you had an AWS account and I wanted you to be able to do work inside of my AWS account. I could allow your user to authenticate and assume a role that will give you access to certain things. Or I could assign a role to my EC2 instance that has access to S3 and RDS, and whatever other services that I need. So these roles, think about roles as kind of like groups for Amazon resources. So like servers and storage devices and all these compute resources that we've been talking about. Roles, that's what roles are for, as well as for users outside of your current account. And actually they say that right here. First line is for IAM user in another account. So you can set up some cross-account access, and users from one account can actually access using another account. That's actually how our security posture is set up on my project that I work on now. I actually don't have a login to, I have no user that is set up in our development environment or our production environment. They're on different accounts. So we're logged into one account right now. We have a completely separate account that we used to log into for development versus production. Now we have another account, a whole third account that sits in the middle. And we only have access to log into this management account. We have access to log into a middle account, and then we can assume a role. So we can access the other accounts with one of these roles. So I can assume a role either in development or in production, and that keeps it very secure because there's actually no users to log into either one of these accounts. So it's a pretty interesting way. A pretty interesting way to use the tools that Amazon's giving to you to be able to securely give people access into Amazon accounts. And it's a good way to be able to manage that. It's kind of like groups, but it provides you that granularity to be able to give people access to only what they need to access. I don't need to provide you with access to everything. I can bundle it down to just the things that you need. So these policies are just that list of access that you would like to give something, and you can apply these policies to I think roles and groups and users. And yeah, IAM gets a lot deeper than this. We'll be setting up a lot of IAM users. We'll be doing a lot with roles as well. Not so much with groups because we won't have a lot of users. Groups again are only for users, and throughout this process, we're only going to really be working with the user that you have installed. But we will be working with roles for sure and setting up various policies for that. So you'll get to see how intense that gets, or how it can get, and how easy it is to. It gets intense, but once you understand kind of this syntax and how they're expecting you to set these things up, it gets pretty simple to be able to build out, the complex policies that you might want to only be able to give people access to certain things, which is pretty interesting. So that is perfect. Right on time. 3 minutes left. That is IAM at its core. Again, that's where you manage access. Security and access happens through here. Identity and access management, pretty important thing. There are jobs that only deal with you managing these roles and groups and policies amongst, lots of resources, lots of users, because it can be a cumbersome task. Yeah, I think that's it for tonight. Does anyone have any questions about IAM? Very important, but again, simple at its core. You can hop right in, you can set up a user, and you've done your job. Pretty simple. Yeah, it's pretty easy to set up a user just like you would on a computer, just like we would do in Linux. That's not a hard concept. Getting into what the things that we can do with it later will be a little bit complicated. Yeah, so actually let me give you guys a few resources. Let's mastermind. Yes, thank you. I will absolutely delete that user. I'll do it right now because I will forget. I will delete that user. Now you can see what it's like to delete a user. Yes, I'll give you. Cool. I'll give you the next few minutes to mine some Bitcoin with it. Because Amazon will probably give me back my money anyway. But I'll delete this user. Just like that. Pretty easy to delete a user. So again, these resources and everything are really easy to create and to delete and to destroy. So that's why you can move so fast with the cloud, because you can do things just so quickly. Like, you don't have to log into the server and create a user, set them up with the right permissions. You can do it all through here, which is pretty nice. And give them access to all of your resources or whatever resources they need access to. Mastermind.io. Look at something really quick. So in this one, we the only two services we talked about were EC2 and IAM, and we didn't get too deep into either one, even though, like I said, it may have seemed like a lot from the EC2 section. We will be touching on both of these things throughout the rest of this course. Next, on Wednesday, we'll be talking about those storage things. So we talked about EBS a little bit tonight. We will be getting deeper into EBS. That's why we didn't dive. There's a lot more options inside of EBS that are pretty cool. So you'll learn more about EC2 in this EBS section here. So we'll talk about storage next week because storage is really important. S3 is probably Amazon's biggest service. And most you probably interact with this way more than you think you do per day. There's so much coming out of S3 every single day. And then we'll talk about some database concepts, and we'll run through their managed database service options. So that'll be pretty cool. We'll get a lot more hands-on in depth. There probably won't be many slides. Actually, I think there will be slides for this. I think that'll be good for the Google Classroom. To kind of reference, because there is so much information for this. I'll mostly be posting links in those slides though to the official AWS pages, because information on these services actually changes pretty often. So if anyone if I ever go over anything that has changed since I learned it, and you know about it, shoot that in the chat, shoot that out in the chat. Let me know that this has changed. It's no longer like this, because these services change very fast and very often. Again, which is another reason why you become valuable. Another reason why I mentioned A Cloud Guru. They make videos daily on the daily, weekly, monthly. They make all kinds of videos on the updates to Amazon, the updates to Google Cloud, the updates to Azure, to kind of help you stay up to date pretty easily. Cool place to look at the videos. You can check out my YouTube page. There should be like a bunch of them were processing before I left. So you should see a bunch up now. I'm assuming you should see at least 6 or 7 up right now. I still have to render, I think the last 4 or 5. So I'm rendering those right after this. I just kind of ran out of time. Again, each of them takes about an hour. The 2-hour videos. My computer's pretty powerful, but it takes about an hour to render each of them. And it takes about an hour to upload them as well. So I'll get them rendered tonight. My work internet is faster, so I usually get them uploaded at work, but I may just let the last 3 or 4 upload overnight. That will include this one as well. I'm going to render out all those this evening. like I said, reach out to me in the Slack if you did not get the Google Classroom link. Because I got a few messages, I'll see how many messages I got. I may just blast out one more to everyone who subscribes. So if you are a current subscriber, you will get that email. If you were subscribed and you're no longer subscribed now and you did not get that email, I will still send it to you. So reach out to me. I will send it to you. I can check who was subscribed. So just send me a message with your username, and I will get you the link to that if you do not get one in the email blast. And again, sorry if I blasted you with too many emails. I think I only sent out one or two. So hopefully you should see that. Last week, great. Cool, perfect. Yeah, I'll do that right after this. And again, that'll include the Google Classroom link. I'm pretty sure I was able to work it out with Google where you don't need. I was working with Google support where that you no longer need a Google address. I think you can do it without a Google email. At first you needed to have a Google email. So if you're having trouble with a non-Google email getting set up in the classroom, let me know, because that was supposed to be resolved. But I didn't do much testing of it. I did one account and it worked. So just let me know if you don't want to sign up for Google. Yeah, cool. Is the email sign up on your website? No, so there is no email sign up on my website right now. All of the Twitch was handling that, but I have found some problems with doing it through Twitch. Again, even with that, like I can't just send out a blast to certain people or send out email to certain people, or I was trying to set up like an auto email once someone subscribed, but that's not an option. So that's actually something I'm working on right now. For anyone who actually joined recently, this is actually this will not be the only time I'm running this. I will be running actually more boot camps than this, but this is the first pilot to kind of learn what things are tough, what things can be done a lot better, like kind of just figuring out a good way to be able to interact and do this properly. So I will be setting up a separate email service for the next one, so keep an eye out for that. But right now it'll be coming through Twitch. Feel free to maybe I'll set up like a sign up form like through Google, through Google or something, and maybe I'll include it as a chat command, and people can add their names to the email if they would like to be added for these things. Slack is the best way to reach me for questioning, for sure. Slack is definitely the best way to reach me on there. And again, I need to change I'll paste the Slack invite one more time. Is it still up? You might need to scroll up a little bit to get the updated one. I will replace the chat command with a new one as well. But yeah, Slack is the best place to message me about questions. I'll try to get back as fast as possible. I'm really doing my best to get back to people within 24 hours. The only problem is I have a pretty busy day job. So, I'm also married and have a dog. So like, I gotta make sure my time is split evenly, but I really do try to do my best to get back to you in as quick of a time as possible. But cool. I hope tonight you got a little bit about, I hope you now understand that the cloud isn't this crazy thing. I hope you understand that it's this distributed on-demand computing that allows anyone with access to Amazon or any of these services to be able to spin up the same infrastructure and the same web resources that any company in the world is able to. All the stuff that Google does and Amazon, all these big companies, you have that access, at your fingertips. And that's what's made the cloud so great. People can move very, very fast with the cloud. Anyone can compete now, on a much larger scale. And that's what's so great about the cloud. I hope that you understand a little bit about EC2, understanding, what purpose that serves. As you know, a server, when you're thinking about computing your traditional server with all those resources, with your RAM and your compute and your storage, that it serves that, and that you have a lot of options inside there to handle different things. And I hope you understand tonight that IAM is the identity and access management manager, is what you use to be able to secure Amazon and to give people and resources access to different things at Amazon. Those are the kind of the major takeaways that I want you to take away tonight. And again, it's up to, I can give you a lot, but it's up to you to dive kind of deeper onto these things. You'll pick up a lot of this stuff over time. You don't need to know all these topics super crazy in depth. You don't need to memorize everything about them. High level understanding of what they do hopefully a little bit of understanding about what they solve, but you'll pick up that, along the way. So hopefully that's what you got from this tonight. And tonight was not part 13. I guess I just did my math wrong. I think I just thought because this was week 7 that this was part 13, but I will go back and update that if it is not. Someone had let me know that I missed that one of the streams that's still up on Twitch has the wrong title, but I don't know, like Twitch wouldn't let me change it, so I'm still trying to learn Twitch. It's not as intuitive as I thought it was originally, but I'll try to get that knocked out. I'll try to fix that up, and if today's part 11, I will update that accordingly. I'll definitely update that accordingly. I looked at the calendar, saw what week this was, and assumed this was 2 a week. This was 13. But cool. Thank you all for tuning in. Again, reach out to me in Slack if you have any questions. I'll make sure everybody gets that Google Classroom link tonight. And I'll see you all on Wednesday. Have a great night.